it is Elizabeth Off Grid, and as many of you know, I've been living in a car for over a year now, and one common comment that I get on some of my videos is, why does a lawyer live in a car? I thought all lawyers had a lot of money, and how are you making money, and why don't you have enough money to have a place to live? Now, I have done videos about why I live in a car, both why I started in the beginning living in a car and why I still live in a car after 1 year, and I will post those videos up here and down there. But really, let's talk about, why does a lawyer live in a car? Aren't all lawyers rich? I wish that was true, right? I wish that all lawyers, all doctors, all accountants, all engineers, all computer programmers, whatever, were rich. That's obviously not true. No matter what profession you pick, everyone isn't wealthy. There's people I went to law school with who graduated from law school and passed the bar exam and literally never worked a day as a lawyer. They ended up doing real estate or selling insurance or something completely different. Why is that? Because they couldn't find a job. They couldn't find any job that paid anything. And now I graduated from law school 24 years ago, but at the time it was like the bottom of the legal profession was making $35,000 a year. And for a lot of people at that time, even if you're making 35 grand a year, you're not going to be able to pay for rent and pay for your student loans and pay for food. So a lot of people who graduated from law school and passed the bar did something else entirely and never to practice law during their life. Then there's the people who go into nonprofit work, into government work, and they make a lot less money. Now they're not making 35 grand anymore, but it's still very much lower end compared to what lawyers in big companies make, or lawyers in big fancy law firms, lawyers doing very prestigious work. Also, there's another thing too. There's a lot of lawyers who will start a law firm, which is starting your own business, all the risks and issues of starting your own business, and it fails. Sometimes it fails because they never get enough clients to really get off the ground. Sometimes it fails because they go bankrupt. So I personally know one lawyer who, she had a business, she had a law firm that made millions of dollars a year in gross revenue, which means before you take out any of your expenses, your taxes or anything. And she went bankrupt. I think she might have had the business go bankrupt and personal bankruptcy, if I'm not mistaken. Anytime you start a business, it can go wrong, and lawyers are not necessarily good at business. For me, none of those kind of things are actually the issue for me. For me, the reason I don't make a ton of money, I actually make very good money, but I don't make a ton of money, is actually because I only work on my law firm for part-time. I work on actually doing legal work 10 to 20 hours a week at most. And that's so I can spend the rest of my working time working on content creation and starting these businesses that I'm working on now. So for me, it's not about not knowing about how business works or not being able to get a job, because I did work in big law. I worked at the last law firm I worked at, Sidley, is one of the largest law firms in the world. The Obamas worked there back in the day, not at the same time as me. Just because you're a lawyer or a doctor or an accountant or a dentist or an engineer or a computer programmer or any of these professions that some people think are going to be an automatic guarantee of making a lot of money does not mean that you're going to have a job. It doesn't mean that your business is going to be successful. Now, for me, I wanted to work part-time. I mean, I've always worked part-time in my law firm. In the beginning, it was because I am a mom and I was raising my kid and I was homeschooling. I also have a lot of health issues. And as time passed and now my son is off at college, now I do it so I can create my side gig business. But let's look at the actual statistics. I pulled the statistics from BLS.gov, which is the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So the mean hourly, the average, mean is a kind of average, hourly rate for a lawyer is $84 an hour, which is great. You're making $84 an hour. In most places, you're doing okay, right? But the bottom 10% is $33 an hour. And $33 an hour, while that sounds good in many parts of the country, $60-something thousand a year. Here in the San Francisco Bay Area, you're not going to be able to buy a house, and you're going to have trouble affording an apartment as well as just your normal stuff and expenses. And the bottom 10% doesn't mean that you sucked at law school or you're not working hard. It can mean that you're working for a nonprofit or for a government agency. You're just working at something that doesn't pay a lot of money. And these are just some examples, but I think it's very important to be realistic about that not everybody in a particular profession makes the same money. In the professions that are where the high earners are earning a crazy amount, a lot of times the regular people are earning something completely different. But let's talk about how I make money specifically. So for me, I'm going to actually use real numbers. These are from April 2024. The reason I'm using April is because May, June, July, those numbers are really different for me because I stopped taking clients in my law firm so I could focus on content creation. I will start taking clients again in a couple weeks. It was kind of just a sabbatical, a creative sabbatical for me. But April was a normal month. So for April, this is what I actually paid myself. So I pay myself a salary of $1,000 a week. This is a normal salary, normal paycheck. That's before taxes. Okay. So it's not what I actually take home. But that's what my paycheck says. But I actually pay myself once a month, but let's just say $1,000 a week. It's easy to calculate. Then I did a distribution from my law firm of $2,000. This is a distribution of profits. My law firm actually made more profit than that, but some of it I was saving so I could pay myself over the summer. My media business, my YouTube channels, made a net profit, which is after expenses, of $3,900, but I only drew half of that, $1,500. And that's so I could have kind of a savings in my YouTube business. So whenever I have a weird month, I can still pay myself. Because here's the thing, YouTube does not pay consistently. You can't depend on ad revenue. Even though I make very good money on ad revenue in many months, I have months where I make $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 on ad revenue. Then I'll have a month where I make $200. Like, it is bizarre. Like, you can't depend that it will be the same every month or even in the same category of money every month. Then I have a rental property where the rent is $1,400, but I actually am currently taking home nothing after that. It's a break even. And that's usually I take home a couple $100, but they decided in the city where this is located to revalue all the properties and literally double the value of my property as if it actually doubled. It's actually very controversial. I saw all these articles about it and they think that the guys might be corrupt and everything, but whatever. So I have this huge tax bill that came out of my escrow and I have to pay back the escrow is what happened. So anyway, so all those things added up means that in April, I took home before tax about $8,000. Now, obviously I have to set aside some of that comes out in taxes. And then I also have to, and that, I'm paying off debts and all these things. So it's not like I'm walking around with $8,000, but yes, I could afford to rent something at this point, but I'm not. And I did a whole video about that. I will post that there for why I still live in a car, even though at this point I technically don't have to. I could at least rent a room somewhere, if not an apartment, maybe not around here, but somewhere. And you might think, well, if it's $8,000, how could you not afford to rent an apartment? Part of it's because San Francisco Bay Area is really that expensive, but also because I'm very, very aggressively paying off debt. And I've done some videos about my budget and I will post that wherever, and I'll link that somewhere around here. So that's really answering the question. Most of the people who ask the question are rude because they say, well, a lawyer always makes a ton of money, so you must be lying and actually shooting these videos in your driveway or something. Like, do people do that? I guess there's some people who are doing that. I don't make enough money off of this channel on YouTube to have that be worth it, but you have to do this out of loving of doing it, not because it immediately makes money. It takes years of working on a YouTube channel for it to actually make money. Obviously, there are exceptions. There are people who have, their channel take off in a month and they go viral and all that stuff, but you can't depend on it. That going viral is not a business model. That is something that just is luck. For actually being able to build any kind of business, where it's YouTube, whether it's a store at the mall, it's going to take 2 to 3 years for it to make enough money to pay your bills. Right now, what I'm focusing on is that my law firm is there just to pay the bills while I build up my content creation businesses, so they are going to take over and pay the bills. And also in the short term, I'm paying off on my debt, because obviously once I pay off all my debt, which I've done videos about paying debt, I'll link that somewhere around here, how much that I have and how I'm aggressively paying that off. I've already paid off over $20,000 of that debt. And so I want to get all that debt paid off. Then my expenses will be significantly less. And at a certain point, I will stop taking new clients from my law firm. And then at a certain point after that, I will shut my law firm down. I have to have a big delay in between that because I do trademark filing. So if I take a client today, I do trademark filing, it's going to take 1, 2, 3 years maybe before that work is all done. So it will be a delay from when I stop taking new clients completely to when the law firms actually get shut down. But I'm hoping in maybe 3 to 5 years, and maybe 2 or 3 years, I stop taking new clients completely. And then at 3 to 5 years, I shut down my law firm and focus completely on content creation. But we shall see. Maybe I'll just keep doing it. I don't know. It all depends on so many factors and so many things that are out of my control that I'm not even going to worry about that super, super long-term of a plan. So if you have any questions about making money while living in a vehicle, feel free to ask them below. I actually also did a video about how to make money living in a vehicle with a bunch of different ideas from people, I think. So I'll post that around here. I'll post that down there too. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Don't forget to stop by and say hi in the comments. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.